Trump live with European leaders. All right, let's just get started. Let's talk about the actual issues and the actual things that matter. All right, let's get into it.
Mark, as head of NATO, maybe you could say a few words, please.
Yes, I will be very brief. I really want to thank you, President of the United States, dear Donald, for the fact that you, as I said before, broke the deadlock with President Putin by starting that dialogue. And I think it was in February that you had the first phone call, and from there we are now where we are today. And that is, I think, if we play this well, we could end this. And we have to end this. We have to stop the killing. We have to stop the destruction of Ukraine's infrastructure. From today onwards, we get this thing to an end as soon as possible. I really want to thank you for your leadership, what you are doing for Volodymyr, but of course also all the European countries.
Dear Daddy Trump, I want to thank you for your leadership.
Together as the two largest and biggest economies in the world, we had the largest trade deal ever agreed. And now we are here to work together with you on a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Stop the killing. This is really our common interest. Stop the killing.
Thank you. And we did. I was just thinking we're here for a different reason, but we just a couple of weeks ago made the largest trade deal in history. So that's a big thing, and congratulations. That's great. Thank you very much, Ursula. Mr. Chancellor from Germany, a very great leader.
Mr. President, dear Donald, many thanks for having us today. I think this is extremely helpful that we are meeting and hearing that the two of you are having such a good meeting today here in Washington. The next steps ahead are the more complicated ones now. The path is open. You opened it last Friday. But now the way is open for complicated negotiations. And to be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire.
Am I crazy? This is not how they were talking before. You ask European leaders about Russia, they were talking like King Von. And now they're like, oh, we want peace. We've always wanted peace. Peace is the best possible solution. What happened? They are so fake, bro. What happened? I'm not even kidding. Like they used to be like, oh, we're gonna make the guns talk. We're gonna make our guns do the talking. We're sliding for Zelensky all day, every day. We're gonna send. Keir Starmer said he's gonna send the British military. Macron was like, we might use nukes. You know, I mean, he didn't say that, but like,
one of the wars was, as you know, in the Congo was 31 years long. Another one that we settled last week with two great countries was 35 years going on, and we had no ceasefire. So if we can do the ceasefire, great.
Oh my God!
And
he just keeps repeating it until it becomes a truth, I guess.
Many other points were given to us. Many points were given to us.
Remember all the wars I ended.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Donald, Mr. President, for hosting us today in this important meeting. And I think it is an important day, a new phase, after 3 years and a half that we didn't see any kind of sign from the Russian side that there was a willing for dialogue. So something is changing, something has changed, thanks to you.
It's so funny that these like highly educated, well, not Maloney, she sucks. But like a lot of these guys are highly educated libs, right? They have a decent understanding of the world. I might not agree with their worldview, but like they're not stupid. So when they hear Donald Trump be like, I'm ending all the wars, including the one in Congo, I ended the India clash, like they just have to sit there and be like, yes, Mr. President, you did do that. They know that's not the truth. But what can you do in the situation? He just kind of sits there and he's like, I've done it all. I've ended wars that you didn't even know. Like they literally just have to sit there and appease him.
So we are dialogue.
It's just like
something
a permanent
we have
ring-kissing operation.
Together.
In order to organize such a trilateral meeting, your idea to ask for a truce or ceasefire, at least to stop the killings, as we discussed, is a necessity. And we all support this idea. And in order to have such a long-standing peace for Ukraine and for the whole continent, we do need the security guarantees. And the first one is clearly a credible Ukrainian army.
What does that look like? What does that look like?
And the second one is
what does this look like? This is what I need to understand.
And
like they keep saying we're going to do security guarantees, but what does that mean? You know what I mean? Is it like NATO style security guarantees without actual NATO intervention?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you for hosting us here. Can I start where Emmanuel started, which is we all want peace. The war in Ukraine has had a huge impact, particularly on the Ukrainians who've borne the brunt of it. I think this is such an important meeting. As a group, I think we've had a discussion on the phone a number of times, Mr. President, but be able now to be around the table to take it forward. And I really feel that we can, I think, with the right approach this afternoon, make real progress, particularly on the security guarantees, and your indication of security guarantees, of some sort of Article 5 style guarantees, fits with what we've been doing with the Coalition of the Willing, which we started some months ago, bringing countries together and showing that we were prepared to step up to the plate when it came to security. With you coming alongside, the US alongside what we've already developed, I think we could take a really important
I don't know. Maybe this is like a face-saving operation for the West and America's like military prowess or something, where they just have to make it seem like they're actually standing down from the Russian incursion with 20% of Ukrainian territory and perhaps even more now being relinquished to Russian control, and they're just saying like, but we actually did such a good job. I don't know what the security guarantees are going to look like. I don't even know if like Vladimir Putin is actually going to follow through on the conditions of the ceasefire. I don't know what the actual details of the ceasefire look like currently. I don't know. It doesn't feel like this is anything different than just straightforwardly saying like, no, you get all of your maximalist positions, but please promise that you're just not going to hit Ukraine any harder.
Thank you for that.
I could see them doing this as a way to be like, see, we try to do peace. Putin is actually the big hurdle to peace. And maybe they're going to get Donald Trump to finally recognize that Putin is a hurdle to peace or something. But then again, then you're back to square one. And the number of weapons you send to Ukraine is not going to actually make up for the lack of manpower. So even if you go back to square one and you just
thank you very much,
get
Mr.
everybody
President.
involved in like
think in the past
defensive posture for Ukraine, it doesn't change the dynamic on the battlefield unless there's like actual military military intervention. Do you think Putin is a hurdle to peace? I mean, considering that he did invade Ukraine, yes.
Which are a big part.
he is the warring party here. He is the belligerent.
Some of the international media might wonder, why is the president of Finland here? I think the reason is probably
you got to get out of your rational bag on this nonsense. None of this is rational.
We have a long border with Russia, over 800 miles.
I'm noticing a significant lack of Turkish presence at this table, and it's frustrating me.
And I don't think there's any issue that's overly complex. It's at a point now where people want to do things. I really do believe. I've known him for a long time. I've always had a great relationship with him. I think that President Putin wants to find an answer too, and we'll see. And in a certain period of time, not very far from now, a week or 2 weeks, we're going to know whether or not we're going to solve this, or is this horrible fighting going to continue. We'll do our best to get it ended. And I believe you have two willing parties, and usually that's good news, but two willing parties that want to make a deal. And we'll journey together, and we'll go over, and we'll see if it can be done. And it's possible it might not be able to be done. On the other hand, it's possible it will. And we're going to save thousands and thousands of lives a week. And so it's something we really have to do. And or at least we have to give it our best. It's all you can do. You can give it your best. But I think we may have a very good outcome. So I want to thank you all, and the media, I want to thank you. We're going to be staying here for a little while. Then we're going to walk over to the Oval Office, and we're going to have another little discussion about similar matters. And then they're going to go home to their great countries and report. And I'm going to remain here and work, and you're going to go and work. We're all going to be working. We may be in a different location, but that's what we know how to do is work.
I can't be the only one confused by this, right? Like, I feel like I'm not alone in this, right? There is like, this is a confusing set of events that has taken place, specifically around the issue. They just keep having meetings, whether it be Vladimir Putin coming to the United States of America, or whether it be European leaders coming to the United States of America, and there is no negotiation. What is going on? They just keep saying it's at the table, it's imminent, but they never actually define what the terms are, and they don't even, like, we don't even know. It's just a meeting about a meeting. It's a meeting about a meeting for another meeting in the future at a certain point, at a certain date, and I truly don't understand what is happening here. Blue Anon was right. Just admit it. Wake up, HasanAbi. No, I don't think it's like Agent Krasnov shit. I said this already. Looking at what has taken place so far, especially in the aftermath of that Trump meeting with Vladimir Putin, I came to the conclusion that is maybe not so great for a lot of American dominance enjoyers, American hegemony enjoyers. But I came to this conclusion that, like, I think Trump doesn't have any other way out of this. I don't think any American president would have a different way out of this. It's just like they tried it. They tried to, atrophy the Russian military. They tried to destroy the Russian economy in the process with the mother of all sanctions. And ultimately, Putin kind of won. And I don't know, like when Trump said to Zelensky, you don't hold all the cards. I think he after this meeting with Vladimir Putin, I realized that, I mean, America doesn't have any of the cards here either. Because if, like, the ultimate solution here is just like an escalation to nuclear warfare, in that regard, this is one of the first instances where, like, a direct military intervention from a foreign adversary against an American proxy, against a Western proxy, if you want to see it that way, led to the foreign adversary winning. There's nothing else that the Western world could do in this regard. I wouldn't even consider Afghanistan to be similar to this. Vietnam is a good example, I would say. Korea turned into a stalemate. Vietnam is a complete defeat for American interests, for sure. But even then, like with Vietnam, America was the Russia and didn't even have the same kind of ambition that Russia has with Ukraine, because it's not in their backyard. Vietnam is not America's neighbor, and America was militarily invading Vietnam. It's like if America invaded Mexico and then Russia and China were boosting the Mexican defenses to withstand, like, an American annexation. That would be the equivalent. Do you see what I mean? Like, Vietnam is America creating a puppet state and trying to maintain some kind of control over the entire country through South Vietnam with puppet leadership, whereas, like, the USSR is obviously funding and is invested in the defense of the North Vietnamese liberation. But, like, while that is also somewhat of a proxy, it's not a direct equivalent. Whereas Russia's actions, I say, is irredentist with the investment into annexation, like permanent territory acquisition, and they seemingly won. They got their desire. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, is what I mean. They talk about how there is going to be a managed resolution, an end to this conflict. Russia's interest in Ukraine, in the most charitable interpretation, is to maintain control over Ukraine, to not allow Ukraine, which is directly its neighbor, to be in the grips of Western influence. Regardless of what the Ukrainian population thinks, by the way. I'm not talking about, like, the Ukrainian sovereignty. I'm not talking about the wishes of the Ukrainian population at all. I'm simply saying, like, Russia's goals was territorial acquisition, halting any sort of, like, NATO intervention in a country that has proximity to strike the Kremlin, right? They obviously also, with Crimea, wanted to protect their point of entry into the Black Sea, all that stuff. But I bracket that off separately, because it does seem like even the European leaders and Ukraine has basically dropped Crimea from the equation. It seems like if they were to give Crimea permanent recognition, like permanent annexation recognition, legal recognition, as is, and say it's like Russian territory, and then in extraction for that, they got the Russians to pull back from, like, certain Eastern Ukrainian positions, that would be an insanely good proposition. It's just not even going to happen regardless. But it seems like even the Western leadership is on board with that. But overall, I feel like they're not getting anything out of this, anything out of these talks at all. It's just like Putin getting everything he wanted. And I don't know if there's any alternative to that anyway. I don't know what the alternative is. Like, what's the alternative? Because it's not even at a stalemate. Russia was able to acquire even more territory in eastern Ukraine. This pic shows a bit of the map that Zelensky told Trump he really liked. It shows the percentage occupied by Russia. I mean, I can't really see it. I don't get one thing. The West is telling how important Ukraine is for their safety and how important it is to provide them with weapons because they should not lose the war. Why the don't they send their own soldiers then? As long as Ukrainians die, it's a war they should be fought. The The reason why they won't send their own soldiers is because all of the countries that have the capability of sending military into Ukraine to defend Ukraine, well, one, that would be unimaginably unpopular. As long as it's just Ukrainians dying and it's they're using Western weapons, then they can manage that. Okay, that's number one. So domestic unpopularity is a major factor here. But the second part of the equation, perhaps the most significant part of the equation, is that if two nuclear armed nations or any nation that is under a nuclear security treaty like NATO were to go to war with one another, like official hot war with one another, that would trigger nuclear holocaust. That would trigger mutually assured destruction. That is the reason why they haven't sent troops into Ukraine. That's the biggest reason. And I think Vladimir Putin knows that, and that's part of the reason why he was able to push and push and push into Ukraine, knowing full well that they would not be able to amount a significant military force to withstand the Russian meat grinder trench warfare techniques, where they just basically bum rush further and further into Ukrainian territory because it's a significantly larger country. NATO, which in other circumstances is supposed to be a security agreement, right, ended up becoming a bit of a problem for American interests, because that way you can't get France or the UK or Germany to send in troops to Ukraine because they're a part of NATO. That way you can't get Turkey to send troops into Ukraine because they're a part of NATO. If the Turkish military is directly in hot battle with the Russian military, all of a sudden Russia and Turkey are in war. If Russia attacks Turkey, then you're triggering Article 5. Now you have a nuclear arms treaty going up against a foreign adversary that it was designed to be that it was designed to threaten, that also has nuclear arms. So in a weird way, NATO actually ends up being an anchor around the weight of American foreign policy, only because Russia was able to succeed militarily. This is why I kept saying, like, one of the weird solutions that I see is like is it's not going to happen, but one of the only solutions in this circumstance is, like, if you truly want to militarily defeat Russia, you have to go and fight to defend Ukraine. That's it. You have to send soldiers to defend Ukraine. That's an incredibly unpopular prospect to begin with. That opens you up to Russian counters. That opens you up to going into battle with Russia, and you can't do that when you have NATO anyway. For some reason, I'm skeptical that most NATO countries would actually go to arms if Article 5 was triggered. I feel like a lot of them would try to find some loophole to justify not doing it. I don't disagree with you. I think I've said this before. I don't think America would, like, the American calculation of, like, defending Poland or defending Estonia, Lithuania, any of the Baltic countries does not revolve around, like, genuinely caring about the lives of people that live in the former Eastern Bloc or whatever. It actually is about defending America's military prowess around the globe. And in that situation, if Russia had the smoke, they would just let it go, potentially. It is crazy that he said he likes this map. Trump says Zelensky can end the war now if he wants to. President Zelensky of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight. Remember how it started. No getting back Obama giving Crimea 12 years ago without a shot being fired, and no going into NATO by Ukraine. Some things never change. Trump announced that Ukraine will not get Crimea back and no NATO for Ukraine. Sending troops is one thing, but closing the sky over Ukraine and shooting down the constant barrage of drones would be quite helpful. Why Israel getting this treatment? Because Israel is attacking militant groups that don't have anti-aircraft defenses and a civilian population that these militancy groups are born out of. Russia is attacking a nation state. Like, there is no equivalence here. You know, Israel's killing toddlers. Okay, Russia does end up killing toddlers too, but like the no-fly zone, no-fly zone over Ukraine would only be established with NATO nations coming in and offering defenses to Ukraine with their air forces. That's how you establish it. It's not like a banner that you put over the airspace. It's not like you close the airspace by just putting up a physical dome or something. You literally have to establish it with deterrence. You have to establish it with air forces. And the moment that you do that, it's basically the aerial equivalent of sending military into Ukraine. This would imply that these countries are going into war. It's no different. It's no different than like sending troops. Ukraine has to take the L here. No, like it sucks. Russia was unjustifiably aggressive, but as an American who doesn't want more wars, we have to make Zell Disney take this deal. No, I mean, I think that Zelensky doesn't have a say in this process at all. Not even from the start. So I think this is more so just like America trying to find a good PR way to get out of this. What are you even saying, Lol? What do you mean? I'm not even. It's not even about like making Zelensky hold the L or something, okay? Because he's already doing that. He's going above and beyond by shitting on Zelensky like the last time he had that meeting. It was embarrassing. It was disgusting. It was fucked up. But I think that also serves a role in basically making it seem like America's washing its hands from this. And it was maybe just the foreign leadership or the former leadership's fault that America's even in this quagmire to begin with. I'm worried that after the war ends, Europe and the U.S. will try to normalize relations with Russia and they will never face accountability. There's really no justice when state actors are involved, huh? Yes. If the West had been even more supportive early on, letting Ukraine use long-range missiles, sending jets, and setting up a no-fly zone, etc., is there any chance this could have turned out differently? No, because no-fly zone was always a red line that they were not going to cross for the reasons that I mentioned. It's like the same as sending military. Do you not understand? You cannot establish a no-fly zone by saying, it's a no-fly zone now. You have to set up military deterrence. And Ukraine doesn't have the capabilities, because they tried, to destroy like Russian air superiority early on. They were able to take out a bunch of, they were able to establish some semblance of deterrence with anti-aircraft weaponry and things like that with the Ukrainian Air Force. But overall, a no-fly zone could only be implemented by Western forces and their Western air forces specifically. And that would require, just like sending military troops on the ground into Ukraine, that would require having, Polish Air Force fly over the Ukrainian airspace to literally shoot down Russian aircrafts. That would be the same as going into direct battle. And as long as Poland and as long as all these other countries are under the security banner of NATO, then that is the maximalist position. It automatically triggers nuclear deterrence. It automatically triggers nuclear retaliation. And that's the reason why they never did it. That's the reason why it was a non-starter. It wasn't even like, no serious person was actually discussing these options. This is also interesting. Brian Allen, based on reports, including from those even from Fox isn't denying it, it looks like Trump's Alaska summit went sideways and the staffers like Caroline Leavitt and Steve Witkoff reportedly left ashen and wide-eyed. I wasn't in the room, but if seasoned operatives come out looking like they saw a ghost, that's panic. Whatever Trump agreed to or failed to push back on clearly set off alarms, and judging by the rush of European leaders to the White House afterwards, the damage control started before Air Force One even landed. Having said that, today's meeting with Zelensky and all the European leaders seemingly is much cheerier, which implies that either, there's something in it that we don't understand, that I don't understand, that I don't see, that clearly there's something there that is clearly positive for them, that they think is good, because they wouldn't be faking it. If they actually didn't like the outcome here of this meeting, whatever Donald Trump told them, they probably would say it out loud.
It's been almost 4 years now that a lot of people were killed last week. A lot of people last week. Millions of people killed, but a lot of people last week for whatever reason. A big number, a lot of soldiers, both on both sides. And I know the president, I know myself, and I believe Vladimir Putin wants to see it ended.
And as you met with Putin on Friday, today you've got President Zelensky here. As you listen to Russia and Ukraine, which side has the better cards?
Well, I don't want to say that. I'm just here to be. Look, this isn't my war. This is Joe Biden's war. He's the one that.
I'm telling you, like, you look at this and you go, oh, this is Trump just like shitting on Joe Biden. No, this is Trump trying to wash his hands of this equation. The very fact that he did not respond to who holds all the cards as a question, terminology that he has used against Zelensky easily, implies that he doesn't want to admit that he does not have the cards. He does not want to admit that the Western world, all the Western powers, do not hold the cards here. That, as we've said over and over again, as many leftists said over and over again, like the end to this conflict will be defined by what takes place on the battlefield. And what is going down on the battlefield shows that with all of the weapons that were sent to Ukraine, from the Western world, with like all the sanctions that were implemented, Russia has still been able to firmly acquire territory and embed themselves deep into the Ukrainian border and take over 20% plus of Ukrainian territory in eastern Ukraine. It seems like it wasn't enough, and Donald Trump sees that, and he basically wants to hold the L. He wants America to hold the L without saying that he was the one holding the L. It feels like this is a way for Trump, in the Trumpian way, in the most Trumpian way possible, to say, sure, we lost, but it actually wasn't us who lost. It was Ukraine who lost. It was Joe Biden who brought us into this. I don't think he wants to take a small L to avoid a much larger L, Russia going further into Ukraine. I don't think that's the equation. That's what his argument is. I think he's just like trying to do a Trumpian exit from all of this. Vibe check. A notably different tone in the Trump-Zelensky Oval meeting, a stark juxtaposition for the first White House encounter. When baited with a question about whether Ukraine or Russia holds the cards, a throwback to the first meeting when Trump said Zelensky doesn't hold the cards, POTUS did not bite. Even the wardrobe issue was addressed by the same reporter who criticized Zelensky for not wearing a suit last time. This time, Brian Glenn, Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, told Zelensky he looks great. Seems clear neither leader wants to get out ahead of the high-stakes closed-door discussions that will get underway shortly. This is the most insane position. I'm a reformed IDF soldier, so I support Gaza because of you. I still support Russia, though. Brother, that is the most insane thing I have ever heard in my life. You got to give that up. You got to cut that. If you were capable of recognizing that Israel is doing a genocide, as someone who lived in Israel, as someone who fought for the Israeli occupying force, you can't be serious about like Russia doing a good job here. This is not this is a brand new sentence because most people, like, there are a lot of people in Israel that are pro-Russia, okay? Israel is like little baby Russia, basically. But that's crazy. That is a brand new sentence. Something deep in the Israeli psyche that must support war crimes, if not theirs, someone else's. This is a normal position around the world. Yes, it's just not a normal position in Israel. It is the most abnormal position in Israel that you can arrive at, especially if someone is like an anti-Zionist now. They probably are pro-Ukraine as opposed to pro-Russia. Or, well, not necessarily pro-Russia, but like it wouldn't say that like Russia is doing a good job. You know what I mean? Being pro-Russia is the normal position. I've been explaining this to you guys over and over again. Yes, for much of the global South, they literally do not see Ukraine as they don't see Ukraine as like being manipulated and being destroyed in the process. They see Ukraine as a Western proxy. The pro-Russia, pro-Palestine position is the most popular position in the global South. I try to explain this to Westerners all the time, and they just either don't understand it or they yell at me as though they're saying I'm in favor of this position. I'm not. But if you were to like get out of your bubble, there are probably a lot more people on the planet. So much of the global South is just less enlightened than you. I'm not even pro-Russia, but damn, it's not about being less enlightened. It's about vengeance. It's about demanding vengeance. It's about assuming that the enemy of your enemy is your friend. That's what it is. Because if you've been over by Western forces, whether it be like colonialism in African countries or the United States of America's direct intervention in your country, then you're like anybody that pushes back against this militarily, I'm on board with. It's a campus position that people arrive at because of their experiences. I'm saying that Russia's interest in this is not to like fight Western imperialism, okay? But a lot of people who have been victims to Western imperialism see it as that. So if you want to understand like where people are coming from when you see that, like when you see the Bangladeshi unks with the pro-Russia, pro-Palestine stance and you're like confused by it, this is the reason. Even an accurate reflection of like what the rest of the world feels about this, even me like bringing this up pisses a lot of people off, and they fucking act as though that's my position. It's not. I'm just telling you what their opinion is. Okay, I'm not making a value judgment here. I'm just saying this is why they feel the way that they feel. I'm not even saying that it's correct. I'm saying that that assessment is incorrect. I love how Chad is pretending like there isn't a lot of pro-Ukraine and pro-Israel people out there. Yeah, no, that's the other side of this, which is also, again, incredibly incorrect of an assessment to make. But there's a lot of people in the West that are pro-Israel and pro-Ukraine. The numbers have actually diminished now, but it is a common position. At least it's like the only position that Western leadership has. It's the only position that like Western governments have. That is their position. And people will try to justify that by saying like, well, Ukraine was attacked and also Israel was attacked October 7th. But that is like, that's the other side of the story. There's a lot of people who look at what Russia is doing in Ukraine and say, oh, this is a fight against Western empire. This is like, finally, you got one country that is like able to militarily withstand and like do revenge to the West, right? That's the way they see it. And then on the opposing side, you have all the people in the Western nations who are looking at like Russia's incursion into Ukraine and are terrified about this. And or you got like pro-NATSEC liberals, like NATO, pro-NATO liberals who are just saying that they're pro-Ukraine and also literally pro-Israel, not recognizing how insane and how untenable and how utterly hypocritical this position is. Someone being pro-Russia and pro-Israel would be insane. Haven't met one of those. Israelis. I've definitely met pro-Russia and pro-Israel people. MAGA. Some of the MAGA base are pro-Russia because Russia is fighting woke, and pro-Israel because Israel high. Israel is the Holy Land. There are pro-Russia, pro-Israel people. They're just called Russians. They're also called Israelis of Russian descent, of Russian background. That's definitely not I mean, it's marginal in the grand scheme of things. It's like a much smaller percentage of the population if you adjust it to the entire world. But I think pro-Russia, pro-Israel is like the South African, like the white South Africans who left after the dissolution of the apartheid and went to Israel. They're just one note. They don't care who's doing it. They just like war crimes. They just like dominating people. They're like, nah, it's fine. If there's another country, it doesn't matter. Any country that's doing it, I'm in favor of. You know what I mean? Like, there are people that did that, right? There were people in South Africa that after the dissolution of the apartheid in South Africa were like, oh, I'm not going to live in a country full of black people where I can't dominate them. I'm going to another country where I can be a part of the in-group that will dominate the out-group. Instead, I'm moving to Israel. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. They're just like, I like attacking civilian infrastructure. I am in favor of blood and soil narratives. I like it no matter where it's coming from. I like war crimes. I like blood and soil politics. I'm just on board with it no matter who's doing it. I don't give a f.
You know, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars. And
oh, my God. Oh, I've ended 6 wars. Even more wars than you haven't seen before. And it's like, you can just basically lie about the Congo whichever way you want, because who's going to question it? It's not like people were privy to what the f was going on anyway. So even if the conflict is still going on, no one is going to investigate this statement. So he can just say it. Just make up new shit. Make up fake countries that don't even exist. Be like, I ended Myanmar. Countries that do exist. I ended Myanmar. I did that. That was me, right? It's not like you got any journalist in that room going, well, that's not true. Why are you saying that? I ended Sudan. I ended the Martian War. There was a big war being waged with an asteroid. I ended that too.
You just take a look at some of these wars. You go to Africa and take a look at that. Rwanda and the Congo. Republic of the Congo.
Republic of Congo. Condominiums. They're making a Trump Tower. They call it Republic of Congo. I call it Republic of Condo. Condominiums, Trump Towers, left and right. Yeah, I ended 6 wars is his like Brandonized version of I did NATO. Like, that's it. I'm doing AUKUS, Jack. I'm doing AUKUS. Except, like, even though it's, like, basically the same shit that they're saying, which is an old man rambling, obviously Trump's rhetoric in this regard is more palatable to the average person. Because, like, he's saying that he's ending wars. He's saying that he's ending wars, even though he's not. It doesn't really matter. But, like, people understand that as, like, a thing that the president is doing. Whereas people don't understand when someone says, like, I did NATO, I did AUKUS.
Mr. President, last week,
Brian, go ahead, Brian.
Yes, sir. I've got a question for each of you. Yes. First of all, Mr. President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look.
Clown show, dude. F***ing clown show. That's what this is. It's a real dog and pony show. A real clown show.
But do you think the American media really doesn't even want a peace deal? Because they've seen they've been so critical of you every step of the way as you lead the charge for peace.
It's an amazing phenomenon. I said that if in the settlement you got Moscow, St. Petersburg, and thousands of miles around them, they would say I made a bad deal.
That's not... Dog, what are you f***ing saying? That is not the deal that is in place. All right, even if I did it, even if I gave a said Kievan Rus, that's not the deal, is it? It's the opposite, actually. It's basically the opposite of that deal. Go back, you missed Trump, what Trump said.
So you say during the war you can't have elections. So let me just say 3.5 years from now. So you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections. Oh, that's good.
You're right, I did miss that. Even Kaya got up for that one. I like that. I like that. I said no new wars, but it turns out if there is a new war, maybe no election in 3.5 years here in the United States of America. Seems great. Mexico looking so good. Looking ripe.
Mr. President, last week you warned of what you called severe consequences if a 30-day ceasefire or any type of ceasefire were not agreed to by Russia. Will there be severe consequences? Does that change because of
I don't think you need a ceasefire. You know, if you look at the 6 deals that I settled this year, they were all at war. I didn't do any ceasefires. And I know that it might be good to have, but I can also understand strategically why, well, you know, one country or the other wouldn't want it. You have a ceasefire and they rebuild and rebuild and rebuild, and, you know, maybe they don't want that. But if you look at the 6 deals that we made peace.
What is the press, dude? Holy shit. It's not. It's over. The notion that you are going to have a nominally adversarial press team in a press pool is completely gone. It's not happening. It's something that I've noticed, not just in the press. It's something that I'm going to be talking about with Ben Cohen of Ben & Jerry's as well. It's not just the press. Our culture, corporations, and every other institution that previously, at least aesthetically, tried to defend the principles of liberalism are completely casting all of that aside and becoming servile little mouthpieces for the right-wing agenda of this administration. Some of it is out of fear, and some of it is because they want to make more money, and they know Trump will press them. It is unfolding in every part of our lives. Every aspect of our lives is being dominated by right-wing crybabies, and I don't know if we'll be able to change this dynamic anytime soon, and I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. The media was never adversarial to begin with, or it's just like, or they were only adversarial to Biden on a right wing basis, but for the most part, they were servile to Biden too. He keeps saying 666. What 6 deals is he talking about? Iran, Israel, allegedly Congo, Rwanda, Azerbaijan, Armenia. I think he means India, Pakistan as well, but I don't know how we arrive at 6.
I think they're very like-minded. They want to help out all.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Trump.
Are you disappointed there's no ceasefire, Mr. President?
The United States has already given hundreds of billions of dollars to this.
Happening, bro? What is, like, they're just like yelling. Do they give the right-wingers better microphones or something? Like, what the fuck's happening? They're like, they just tune it up. They're like, oh, it's douchey talking. We got to fucking tune it.
War effort in Ukraine.
Biden.
At best, it is...
Biden. This is MAGA's take on Ukraine, and you said I was wrong? What? That MAGA hates Ukraine, bro? I told you. Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. What do you mean? No, I think there are a lot of Americans. I talk about this all the time. They got duped by like Telegram. There are a lot of Americans who unironically, there are a lot of Americans on the right that unironically think that Russia is actually engaging in a moral war against woke. Oh, Fox does still pummel MAGA with anti-Russia sentiment. That's true. Yeah, both of those things are true. Both of those things are true. While Fox News and the establishment Republicans are still very much invested in the quote unquote defending Ukraine unconditionally narratives, even though it's like just so that they can continue sending weapons to Ukraine. There's no like moral interest here. American politics doesn't exist on moral boundaries. The average American, even not just like MAGA people, I think the average American is just like, why the fuck are we giving so much money to other countries? Like, that's their position. Americans are very selfish. MAGA supporters have a specific type of reverence for Vladimir Putin. One, born out of Donald Trump's love for Vladimir Putin, and two, because they just got tweaked into defending Russia because they went into the wrong Facebook groups and they went into the wrong Telegram channels. And they turned into people who actually think Russia is fighting a just war against woke and against like Western degeneracy. They make it seem as though like Democrats actually wanted to give money to Ukraine so they can make Ukraine gay. They think like Democrats wanted to homify Ukraine, and Vladimir Putin is invading Ukraine to stop the gay, stop the woke.
Well, that's a very off topic, just really quickly. Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive...
Guy who was literally shitting on Zelensky for not holding elections. He's a dictator. Now talking about undermining another pivotal part of like American democracy while sitting next to Zelensky only moments after he said, oh, if you get into a war, maybe you can, maybe you can avoid having an election. How nice. I will think about it. Everything that right-wingers do is good. Everything that they say is bad, or whoever they claim is doing the exact same thing is bad and immoral and wrong. Once you realize the world revolves around this fundamental truth, it makes a lot of this commentary more palatable. This is just truly what they believe. It's good when I do it. It's bad when anybody else I say is bad is doing it. And it's woke, it's gay, it's communist.
If you have mail-in vote, even Jimmy Carter with this commission, they set it up. He said the one thing about mail-in voting, you will never have an honest election if you have mail-in. And it's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it, because the Democrats want it. It's the only way they can get elected. Because with men and women's sports and with transgender for everybody and open borders and all of the horrible
things that you like, Zelensky. You want to do transgender sports in Ukraine. That's why Putin invaded, right? You want to do mail-in voting, don't you? Be honest. You want to do transgender mail-in voting. Everybody transgender. Everything's computer. Everybody transgender.
And now the new thing is they love crime. They're fighting me on the fact that I've made Washington, D.C. safe. We're not going to get mugged, beaten up, or killed like all the people you've been watching